I'll call the order again.
Good evening, I'm District Secretary Nicole Gonzalez. It is Tuesday, January 5th, 2016. This is a regular meeting of the Dublin San Ramon Services District Board of Directors. Presiding this evening is President Pat Howard.
Thank you. We'll call this meeting to order, and would you please join me in the pledge to the flag? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Director Forte?
Here.
Director Mishloff?
Here.
Director Mahir Leopold?
Here.
Vice President Halkett?
Here.
And President Howard.
Here. The special announcements. I see we have some new employees.
Yes, we do. So we've been remiss, I guess, for a couple of months in introducing some of the people. I see two, I see one missing. Karen, Bob, you want to introduce the two employees?
Since I'm in the front.
Yeah.
Sure. Hi, I'd like to introduce you to Mayette Bailey. She started yesterday, so she's brand new. Mayette has a degree in finance with concentration in accounting. She is taking over Herman Schenkel's position as financial analyst. She came from the city of San Leandro and has worked for the city of Hayward in a revenue utility billing area. So she's very familiar with government, but we're her first special visit. Yes. Excited to be here.
We'll come up to the podium. So we get recorded better. We better stand on here. Hi, I'm Bob Treppa, IT manager, and I'd like to introduce Renee Collins, who is our newest information technology analyst. She started 3 months ago. That was about 2 weeks before we had a total power outage, and I met her here at 2 o'clock in the morning. But Renee comes with some great credentials, and I'm really pleased to introduce her. She's been at the town of Danville as the IT manager there for the last 17 years, and has come over to us to help out. And she has an extensive background with Microsoft, with SQL, with SharePoint, with web, and also GIS, and is helping out with all of the applications that we support in the IT group. She's been very active with field support, field operations, getting them mobile computing launched. She has a BS in geological engineering, cum laude from the Missouri University of Science and Technology. She has various Microsoft and technical credentials, and she is also a California registered professional engineer. So it was really a great capture.
Awesome.
I'm real pleased to have you.
Welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Welcome.
We have a couple others that are not here. I guess next board meeting, we're going to meet the safety officer who will be doing a presentation, so you'll not only say hello, you'll be able to ask questions at the same time. Our field ops supervisor was scheduled to be here, but he had a family matter that came up, and Robin Toby, our new associate civil engineer, will also be at a later meeting. So those will be 5 newer ones that we have. Thank you for joining. Feel free to leave, or you can say watch the rest of the catch it on tape at a future time.
You're hooked now.
And we're going to try and do a little technology. We agreed with a 29-page agenda. We would try and use technology on our part, and my screen's already timed out on me. But a couple of other announcements. One is we had communication from the Contra Costa Special Districts Association asking if anybody was interested in a sitting on their board, who nominated for the board. We heard one no from Patty. If anybody else is interested, let us know. We have to set it up for the next meeting to get the recommendation. This Contra Costa Special Districts Association. Like the treasurer too.
Yeah.
Yeah, put my name down.
And another item that we have is the next board meeting. Normally would be Tuesday night. I think Casa, you might have meetings on Tuesday. Question would be, would we want to move the board meeting to Monday evening to allow travel, those of you returning to Palm Springs? Remember what that trip is like, so we would have to decide. It's the board's pleasure to.
I would love to have it on Monday, that it's a lot easier.
Doesn't matter.
Monday's good for me.
Monday's good for me too.
Monday's okay with me.
Sounds good. That would be the 8th.
Just last public service announcement, there is a barrel for the Alameda County food bank out in the lobby, collecting food on behalf of the food bank. So for the public notice on the screen, might be gone before people read it, but welcome to contribute to that also. That's the announcements.
Okay, reports. Oh, we didn't do both. I don't see anybody. Okay, now we can go on to reports.
All right. See, this is where I'm going to have fun with my technology, and I knew I'd be doing this, moving this thing around. So just a quick comment to everybody as to what we're doing for the next couple of months. And if we can't discuss any of these, but if there's anything that I'm telling you that the company working on or the team working on, let us know and we'll agendize it for future meetings. But as I mentioned, you saw some of the new people we hired. I've mentioned we've filled 14 different job openings through the district since last August. So some of those are people just moving up into positions. But there's a lot of turnover. We still have 5 current active recruitments running, including the GM. And that feedback Michelle gave me yesterday is a lot of activity for people, no paper yet, but a lot of activity for the job open. There's 3 other jobs that are not posted and not moving forward. So, before we consider any new retirements, it's almost like 20% of the staff will be in new positions. So we're really focusing on what we're doing with people for the next couple of months. It's very important as we're setting the theme for the future. One thing myself, the senior management team is talking about is training for staff we're going to work with, so making sure everybody's got technology available to them, is learning it. Taking a lot of new leads that we have, making sure they understand basics of what they should be doing as a lead and representing the district. So we're going to be working on some of that, making sure people have the tools to do what they need to do. You all have been through turnover of staff. It's great. We get a lot of new ideas, but make sure we pass on everything that we should to. The new FOD site, Dan, to give you, McIntyre, to give you a quick update on that. We hit a milestone.
Yeah, so the Army's notified us they need us to relocate our field operations division facility from Camp Parks. And of course, we've been working since earlier this year to purchase a new industrial building, a reused industrial building in Pleasant Circle. So it's a 27,000 square foot building on a 2-acre site. We've gone through our inspections and we just did an air test on some environmental issues. And everything is going really well on the purchase. We're just about to go into escrow. We're going to make a deposit here in the next couple of days and start into escrow. Escrow will range from 15 days to 75 days. And the reason for that length of time is to allow the seller to do a tax exchange deal that they need to work out. So they get a little bit of discretion on how long that period is. Although we are entitled at release during that time to take possession of the building. So we'll have that. There are some renovations and some minor rehab work that needs to be done. Obviously, we need to furnish some of the building and figure out where the field operations division, how it's going to all lay out, where their equipment, supplies, materials are all going to go. We're working on that. We'll be hiring an architect to help us with some space planning. We expect that all of that work will be installed and completed by later this summer, and we'll meet our deadline for moving the field operations division over there in advance of the Army needing us to relocate from Camp Parks. So everything is going really well on that, and just as a reminder, purchasing that existing industrial building was an advantage compared to building an all-new facility on Gleason Avenue. I think we're saving like $3 million by going with this more economical site that's almost ideally a good fortune set for us. So all things are going well.
Yeah, the Army dropped the bomb planning meeting I had with them. We're going over to be very nice and tell them we would be leaving the site. They said, yeah, you're going to leave by September. The developers have told us they're moving ahead with the plans from the front, so you have to get out. Oh, okay. So we'll see what we do. Other things we're working on, engineering staff is completing the water master plan. So over the next quarter, you'll be getting updates on the master plan and the changes to the capacity fee that goes along with it. So we're in process right now, back and forth, starting to look at some preliminary deals. We'll be getting that over the next couple of months. Engineering staff's also working on the expansion, as you know, over on the west side of town, completing the recycled water lines that are going in, the recycled water treatment facility expansion is continuing, or starting, and continuing. So we're moving ahead on those fronts also. I guess we're going to be working internally on what to do for the upcoming drought season, provided we don't float away here. And I'll get you some updates next board meeting on where we are with the drought. Probably saw the news that snowpack is good in some areas, lakes not as good. So we'll kind of go over that. Dan, do you have a brief update on what's happening at the recycling fill station?
Yeah, just for your own information, the fill station now is only open 2 days a week. We're open on Wednesdays and Sundays from 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. We're getting very little traffic right now. There's only a few people that are still coming, but we still have some very passionate people. So we're trying to stay open a couple of days a week so we can still come and get water when they want to. And just FYI, we're going to be closed tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday because it's raining today. And we set up a procedure now so that we're closed when it rains and the following day.
And the last item with the reorging of the board committees, I'm going to tweak the strategic plan a little, not propose any changes in the plan itself, but maybe look at some of the work items that may or may not be needed, and we'll bring that back to you over the next couple of meetings. So that's kind of what we're focusing on the next couple of months, that and hiring the new GM. So if there's anything that doesn't pique your pleasure there, let us know, and we'll schedule it for discussion.
Given those changes with the personnel and the additions and new hires, where are we sitting right now with full-time equivalents?
What is that? So, 105, you think, yeah. But there's still, remember, there's still a good number that are at retirement age that, you know, I think it was 50% over the next 5 years would be at or already need. So we're trying to watch it, talk about it. One of the items that we queued up for, the only item that we queued up besides Carl tonight, was to really talk about attendance at conferences and whatnot. We're talking about kind of getting more people involved throughout the organizations. You know, they're being trained as we're going along, and we're not sending people who are walking out of it as well. So, part of an ongoing training process.
Now's a good time to be doing that because CASA is going to offer, like, I forget what we ended up with in the discussion, 75% or 50% of the registration for any young professionals that we want to invite from our staffs. Because they want to get younger staff into CASA.
All right. So that's everything on the reports. Until we get to agenda management, I don't think there's much to consider here. Committee reports are none. We move on to approval of minutes for December 15th.
Second.
Moved and approved. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So that passes unanimously. Move on to number 8, A and B consent calendar. Move to approve.
I'll second.
Yes, been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. So that passes unanimously. Board business. Item 9A, review and discuss drought management program.
So 9A is our standing items, allow people to, anyone in the public to comment on the drought and address the board. And be able to answer, so if there's any questions. Next month, we will come back with our update, which will be a little more abbreviated than has been in the past. Try and get them more down to highlights.
You ever heard anything from our neighbors down the street about the groundwater levels? How they're doing?
How's that?
Yeah, pretty much the zone is recharging close to as much as they had to draw out in this last year. But the uncertain question is how much have the two main retailers on their independent water pumping quota, Pleasanton and Cal Water, how much have they drawn down? So we don't know that yet. It's likely to be a modest amount. The groundwater table seems to be doing fairly good, for this far into the drought. We don't see like a big drawdown.
Just curious. And one thing for when we do when we do the formal briefing next time and keep the emergency going, in your travels, I'd be curious, obviously as the skies have opened up and we have snow, there's going to be some interesting political pressure in Sacramento about how long Governor Brown can maintain what he's trying to maintain. I'm sure they're talking about it. So I'd be curious to hear some about what's happening statewide. Some of the agencies that have had a tough time filling their obligation and they're pushing pretty hard.
Yeah, as we reported last time, State Water, where the governor's already issued a directive intent, noticing his intent to extend the emergency declaration through the end of October if the drought hasn't broken by the end of January. And everybody in the industry knows we're not going to know by the end of January whether the drought.
Well, and also, drought being broken is kind of a fuzzy. That can be read a bunch of different ways.
So the State Water Board is already working on proposed regulations, proposed restrictions for this coming year. And it's been through one round of comments, and they've had a workshop. The second draft is out. Comments were due on that draft today. And then we're expecting that the State Water Board is going to roll that out and implement it probably in early February after the month of January is passed.
I mean, anything you can, any talking points you can arm us with, because, the more clever my neighbors are looking at the sky and what's going on.
I think there'll be an interesting one. I was looking at the data last week. The snowpack was obviously very positive,
Right.
but it was pretty amazing with the lake levels haven't changed. It's all, as Dan mentioned, it's all going into the ground. So it hasn't started filling anything up. So,
And if anybody's paying attention, most of the news on it has been it would take 3 El Niños to get us back to where we should be. So to think that he's going to change anything, I don't think he would.
Well, I know the CASA and water reuse were encouraging the governor to wait until April at least before rolling out what the restrictions might be, because we want to make sure that we don't lose the public's trust in what the state's doing. Because if this turns into a really wet winter, people are going to be asking questions about why do they still need to conserve. And we thought it was best if he at least allows the winter to run its course before making final decisions on this coming year.
Part of it is trying to educate them that this is the new normal. You know, you're going to have to conserve
Right.
all the time.
Yeah, and there's an expectation that the state's going to do some hard coding and some limitations on some level.
and I've already talked to Sue too about, as we start getting more and more rain, put releases out of some type of, this is good, but, this is, so they're not surprised, at least to try and counterbalance some of what your neighbors will be telling you. I know they won't hear it, but at least
The
put
more you
something
can
out
arm
there.
everybody, the more you can arm us, arm yourselves, or your officials, the better.
Anything else on that topic? Then we'll move on to 9B, legislative.
Okay, legislative advocacy is something that's a key strategic priority for the district. And that looks at kind of two things. One is advocating for modifications or new regulations or laws that affect us. And then the other one is programmatic level funding for projects that we might want to do that later filters down into individual grant funds. The most obvious way that we're involved in legislative advocacy is through a large number of associations, so Aqua, CASA, and Bay Area Biosolids to Energy, the Western Recycled Water Coalition. All of those are advocates on our behalf that we participate with, and they at the state and federal level are advocating with the legislature kind of year-round. But in addition to that, the district directly takes on legislative advocacy through the board and through its staff, both at the state and federal level. The last couple of years, there's been some emphasis or accent at the federal level, where there's been a lot of involvement in trying to get some program-level funding for projects that would be of interest and benefit to the district. And what staff is recommending, though, is based on the current political landscape, that it might be appropriate to devote more attention at the state level. It seems that there are more funds possibly available, greenhouse gas funding, for example, that might be available for a Bay Area Biosolids and Energy project, or recycling water projects at the state level that are kind of front and center on the agenda. Whereas at the federal level with the national election, is there as much interest or possibility of getting that kind of funding in place? So staff suggesting more of an emphasis at the state level, and there is an upcoming event. Aqua has a legislative symposium. It's scheduled for March 9th. The staff will be attending that, and if any of the board members are interested in joining us, that's a full-day event. It's both Aqua activities at the Convention Center in Sacramento, as well as a chance to directly work with some legislators on program funding that might be of value to us.
So again, this is just, you've got a lot of extra paperwork in there just so you can see halfway through the year, just kind of where you were on your budgets, but it wasn't an attempt to control that, more just a discussion of what we have, where we might want to prioritize, and really get your feedback as to what you think was the focusing local was something a little new. What might be important.
Well, having attended both CASA and conferences in DC, I strongly agree with this. It's very frustrating back there, and we're not going to make the impact right now that we'd like. Very few people, very few organizations are able to get anything done right now. And investing in some time and money at the state level, I think will bear fruit. At least we're closer to the action and maybe have a little more influence. But I would strongly agree that we divert the goal to the state level.
I think we don't lose all representation. That's very
Right.
well. The CFO is on the board and has expressed expressed interest in DC, so we will have someone there that can bring back and report. It's just whether we have staff and others also go. I think Sacramento is very important.
Yeah, I mean, the realities of a presidential convention here in Washington is,
Yes.
there's nothing that's going to happen there. And it's just difficult to move those people in the best of times. I mean, Sacramento's difficult, Washington is exponentially harder. And, you know, we still have a very good relationship with our local congressmen, and several of us have personal relationships with them. And, you know, so we always have a way to get a pebble into the pond in Washington that I don't think every district or bar size has. We won't lose that. Don't go to that conference.
Any other comments on this item? No? Okay, let's move on to item 9C, annual briefing.
The annual briefing indeed.
Brief briefing, right?
You may notice there's a little handout in front of you. There's, I think, additional copies for the public. If there was any public here to receive it, wanted to follow along. The Brown Act was, not much was done again, or nothing was done essentially, so that one's easy. The Brown Act, of course, is the act under which public meetings are held at any time. A standing committee or three board members come together, there's a possibility that you'll need to have discussions using a formal notice agenda. And I think you're all familiar with that. Nothing more to say about that. Public Records Act is a law that makes records of the district generally available for public inspection and copying. And there's been a couple of tweaks to that focus on electronic records. The first one is, and this is described briefly in the handout, if there's a website that's described as open data, which Wikipedia says is the idea that some data should be freely available to everyone to use and republish without restrictions, copyright, blah, 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 blah. So I mean, we'll have to work with it. Probably, I was thinking we should have Bob Trevor sitting here to talk about this some more, but basically it sets restrictions on, if you say this is open data, then you have to do it in certain formats, you have to be able to download it, and retrieve it, index it, search it with common search applications. So that is what it is, and I don't think that that's going to present much of an issue for us. The second one is a little bit puzzling to me. It's Senate Bill 272. This bill, basically, you can see what it talks about. It's a catalog of enterprise systems. I don't know what that means. It's defined in the statute. I still don't exactly know what it is. It's defined as being a software application or computer system that collects, stores, exchanges, and analyzes information. The agency uses it as both a multi-departmental system or a system that contains information collected about the public, or it's a system of record. So we're going to have to put Mr. Trevor on this, because I haven't spoken to anyone who really understands exactly what this is going to mean. It's going to mean something.
I'm sure Hertzberg doesn't understand.
I don't, this is, on the CASA State Ledge Committee, I said, well, you know, these words, I understand each one individually. This is a nomination. I mean, it's sort of odd to have legislation that comes out in 19. We'll just have to figure out what this is. But
Bob's IT group has already been loaded into it, because they all kind of, what does it mean?
yeah, I mean, we're going to post on the website a catalog that lists all the enterprise systems. It lists the system vendor, the product, the purpose, the categories, types of data, the department is primarily responsible. The objective of this is to make it easier for people to search governmental records. You know, nobody can really argue with that, but what exactly it means is really for the IT professionals to sort out. And hopefully this won't be a major effort. I mean, the Ledge Committee took the position and said, what does this mean? Why are we doing it? At any rate, it's now the law of the state, and we'll do what we need to do to comply with it. So that takes care of the so-called transparency part of the statutes that govern the district. The Political Reform Act has to do with financial conflicts of interest. That's the one that requires you to file a Form 700. That's the one that requires you to disclose gifts that are in excess of $50. And if it reaches a threshold, which goes up every year, unlike all the other numbers, it's somewhere around 460 last time I looked. It's somewhere up there. Over the period of a year, you're precluded from acting on any matter that pertains to the source of those gifts. So most of these things have to do with campaign statements that are summarized in the handout. And I'm not going to say anything about the first two because that's essentially what they are. There's disclaimers for advertisements and so forth. The third one has to do with payments, behested payments. Now, behested is a fancy word for a payment that is made at the direction of a government official. And it used to be that you had, the footnote indicates that you had to file a Form 803 if money was being behested, for a legislative, governmental, or charitable purpose. And this act clarifies that if it's for a legislative or governmental purpose, you don't have to fill out your Form 803. So the second bill has to do with travel. It's trying to tighten up on travel, requires disclosure of who's actually providing the money that's used for travel for elected officials. So the next trip to China to look at wastewater treatment plants, for example, if the private organization wants to put up the money, there would be a disclosure of who the people are that are actually paying that. I don't know that that's ever come up for this district. That is the law of the state. Flipping to the backside, Government Code Section 1090 is the very draconian conflict of interest statute. That's the one that has people fined millions of dollars, people going to jail or losing property and things like that. What they've tried to do is to create some more exceptions to remote interest. There's some things that are defined as a non-interest, other things are defined as a remote interest, which means that you can say, I have a conflict and not participate without disqualifying the entire board. Because the way 1090 is written, if one member of the board has a conflict, and it's not one of these ones that's defined as a remote interest, then the whole board cannot act. 1090 involves a contract between the agency and a firm, a person, something like that. So it's not the sort of thing that is often triggered. There's horror stories, but we don't want to go into that right now. But what they've added is the interest of a person who's owner or partner of a firm who is serving as an unelected board or commission to a contracting agency, that you recuse yourself. I suppose there's only one unelected person on this board, but I don't think we'll talk if there's anything to say about this. The second one is the special rule for engineers and geologists, architects. If somebody happened to be on the board and also happened to be a lower level engineer, geologist, architect, or planner, and that person was not sitting in a primary management capacity yet, or is not an officer, director of the consulting firm, then it's a remote interest. The FBPC, as always, has been tinkering with their regulations a little bit. The first one is the definition of public generally, because there are situations where there might be a conflict, but for example, adopting rates. Rates will affect each of you when you get your water from the district or your sewer service from the district, but they affect the public in exactly the same way, so there's an exception to that conflict that would arise. And they've sort of tinkered with that a little bit. And I looked at the language that was here, that was written by my associate, our associate Mike Nelson, and it doesn't sound like it really changed a whole lot, but they like to tinker with the words, the prosody and with things like that.
So would this have fixed our West Dublin recycled water pipelines?
I will be looking into that, and I will see whether there's I'm not terribly hopeful.
I think we're done on voting on that, but
Yeah.
just
that's
in future
something.
circumstance like that, would this fix that?
Well, I don't know if that's the intent, and I'll look at it with regard to that. I can't give you a quick answer. Disqualification requirements, the FPP decided that they should specify what statute already specifies, that you announce what the conflict is, and you leave the room. So that's what we'll do under the regulations as well as the statute. That really doesn't change a whole lot. That's been the way it's been. Or that's been what our advice has been to you based upon the statute. And the last item is tickets. The ticket policy is now going to be linked. We have to provide a link to our site to where our policy is on our website. Send it to the FPPC so that somebody who's interested in what our ticket policy is can look at it at the FPPC website. They don't have to try to figure out where our website is because it's so darn hard to find. And it also requires that the Form 806 be linked similarly. So we'll be doing that as needed. The policy will be linked, and if there's another Form 806, well, I guess we'll put the last one up and we'll see whether one comes up again. I think in the time that I've served as counsel, whether assistant or general counsel, there's only been one time that the ticket policy has ever been implicated. Only one filing of the Form 806, so, but it can happen. You know, the A's might decide that they want to give some tickets to, or the, well, I wouldn't say the Raiders. The Raiders season's over, and they don't know whether they're going to be local anymore. But, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, there's some, this was a big deal in San Diego, which is why, in some other places down south, that's why there's a Form 806. And that pretty much wraps it up.
Anybody have any questions?
I think Rich had a very good question. So I will report on that.
Carl, you and I spoke about a month and a half ago. I always found it an interesting situation for, personally, as the owner of a construction company that bids on public works, and for all of you, you're all very familiar with how this process works, where the agency retains a designer, they put together a bid package with no input from the private sector at all, other than the designer themselves. And then the public contract code requires that we all we'll go out to bid. So I thought, well, if I ever do get elected to an agency, I guess that means I can't bid on it, if for no other reason other than it doesn't look good. But I wanted to say publicly, there is no way in heck that our company could ever have any influence on what a DSRSD package would be. And as we bid the job, we take the low subs, because that's how you get the job, you get the low price, and put our markup and put our input in how we're going to manage the job. There's no way that I, as a board member, would have influence on that bid. But you know, if I told my company to bid on it and they got the job, everybody knows what would happen.
You don't want to be a...
No, I don't.
But it's a classic...
Overkill.
Having done this for a while now, people radically overestimate the amount of power that
Yes.
have.
Yes, exactly.
And there are agencies that are on the up and up, and there are board members that might want to sort of look at what the engineer has done and sort of suggest things. And there's a theoretical possibility something like that could happen. I mean, a lot of these conflict laws are designed to prevent the possibility, or the theoretical possibility of something happening, and that's the best you can say.
Well, we all know in the good old days, you could buy your way into things. I don't know, I don't mean to say that the way it sounded, but...
You didn't mean they were good, you meant the days that were kind of old.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe they weren't so good, old days.
Well, I mean, like we chuckled about Brenda Mesa in Kern County and, you know, the kind of, I hate to use this term, but it explains it so well, the good old boys club where everybody sort of sat around and patted everybody on the shoulder and an agreement was made with a handshake. And that's how business was done. Now, with all of these sunshine laws, you know, you can't do that anymore. And sometimes I think that's bad, and sometimes I think that's good.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll give you a very brief example, and then we can adjourn, but We were the second bidder for a project in, and I'll even tell you the city, the city of, the city is northeast of Vacaville. Anyway, so we were second bidder, and the low bidder did not acknowledge addendum 2, which had an impact. And the city had put in the bid document, failure to acknowledge and sign addendum 2, receipt of addendum 2, will render this bid obsolete and void, and that bid will be rejected. That's what their form said. So we're second bidder, and we're sitting there. We're $250,000 higher than the low bidder, who was a good old boy. He was a local contractor. So we almost didn't file a protest letter, but at the last minute we did, and we were surprised we didn't follow. We've already discussed it, and we see no violation of the bidding rules. And we went to a hearing, and you know me, I mean, I got up there and I ran for 15, 20 minutes, and I told them, I said, there's nobody in this room that has done this as long as I. I said, you're all a bunch of kids. I said, but your attorney is wrong. The strategy was, one of the board members got up and said, well, Mr. Duarte, I think that's absolutely correct, and I vote no. And the other one split 4-1, it passed. And as we go out, I happen to know this other contractor because we had ties 40 years back. And he said, Ed, he says, that was your job. I said, I know. I said, but you're a hometown boy. He says, well, maybe next time. End of story. So it can happen. I mean, they bent the rules, and they violated the rules.
Yeah, that's why they cover it. Public works contracting as part of the AB 1224 ethics agreement, because stuff like that's true. You gotta play by the same rules. You can't just change the rules after the bids come in.
Speaking of the training, that comes up every year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, normally we get a little too, we're saying.
Yeah, you got one last week. It's in the last week.
Right. And for those of you who are new, you can pay for it, or there's a really nice, I'm cheap, so I do that. The FBC has a pretty fun little web thing. It takes you a couple hours to learn.
It's time, so you can't go.
You can't go too fast, but you don't have to, yeah. But in the little case studies are kind of fun. So, the web-based version you can do this in your jammies with a cup of coffee.
When you're doing one of those presentations live, it's required to be 2 hours long.
Right.
Yeah, it times you.
Yeah. Or if you go to conferences, every conference offers it as a whole set.
Question for Peter, yeah. Last board meeting, if I had any brain left then, Rich was talking about the corner over by on Sharon, about all that water buildup in the street. Has that resolved or no?
Yes, we've fixed that now. The way it's set up is there's a pipe that goes from that spring, if you will, over to the sanitary sewer, and there's a valve on that pipe. And then the pipe is still in there at a slightly higher elevation that goes to the storm sewer. So the plan is that during the summer months, when we need extra water to make recycled water with, we're going to leave the valve open so that water drains into the sanitary sewer. And then during the winter months, when it's raining and there's plenty of water running everywhere, anywhere, anyway, we can close that and let it go to the storm sewer where it'll go out with the rest of
And that property itself, as long as we live in Dublin, has been a problem. That's why they had to redo the whole building. The water running through the
Well,
inside.
we've kind of drifted into item 10, board member
Oh.
items.
Sorry.
So, item 9.
That's all right.
Okay, so, yeah, let's continue on with item 10. Do you have any other board member items? Georgie?
I always do. The CASA Education Foundation is making a plea for money, funds, etc., to have a silent auction again, or an auction again at CASA in order to raise funds for the scholarships. So if you have anything you want to donate for that, be it money or be it, for instance, they've got a round of golf gift certificates, together a themed basket. Gift certificates, I think, are very difficult because you're talking to people from all over the state. Who would want to drive 600 miles for a manicure? Anyway, there are other things, you know, you could, whatever you think might be saleable at an auction.
Weekend at Tahoe, Director Howard.
Yeah, there you go.
You have spare.
That is listed, a few nights stay in your vacation home.
And paintbrushes will be.
But that's all I have. Just a comment though, I think it'll come back. Did you find out the board does have to approve, or did we already?
It's already been approved.
It's already been approved, okay.
We
Because I
did that
will be going.
2 or 3 meetings ago.
Okay, I will be going to Washington DC, and looking forward to it. We have to contact Eric so we can go tour the White House. Tom and I have both never been back there, so we're pretty excited.
It's very, wear your walking shoes.
Yeah, I keep telling him we need to rent a car, and he said, but there's no place to park it.
Trust me, there's, Metro works great.
Yeah. I have none, so I guess adjourn the meeting. Meeting adjourned.
This Hertzberg bill is even worse than
Yes, it is.
there's a purpose. Basically, they could have renamed this thing the Hackers Easy Access.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to list, I mean, like, we would list, Eden. If we had Eden.
Yeah.
Store data.
That's